So, today we find ourselves on the 22nd of May, 2021, and I want to talk something a little outside of depression and MS and stuff, but actually something that's a little entertaining. Anyone can do with some mental training and some stuff to help with it. And obviously, you saw from the title that I'm talking about lucid dreaming. And I wanted to go through what made me think about this was a dream I had last night. Now, if you don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's the ability to understand and know that you're in a dream. And once you realize that, being able to affect what happens in the dream, get to use it as your own playland. Certain things you should do to test whether or not you're in a dream or not. Certain things you should not do that could trigger what's called a lucid nightmare, where now your personal fears, because you're going to start thinking about them, would start to manifest themselves in a dream that you're fully aware of, and it would seem like hyper reality to you. I've done it. It's not a pleasant thing, but one of the things with MS that I've noticed with my dreams, and I've been able to lucid dream for years. I don't necessarily know how I get started with it, but I'm fully aware of my dreams quite often. A lot of people say that they never dream. If it's a dream that you remember, more than likely, 9 times out of 10, you were lucid dreaming. That's why your brain took memory of it. That's why you still recognize it. Whether or not you were consciously aware that you were dreaming is something else where you could affect it. But when you do become aware that you're dreaming and you realize that things are not how they are in your normal life, then you start to think about things that are reality, and then those things can start to pour in. It's one of the things I constantly fight, as I'll go into with this dream last night. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I am a really huge, hardcore wrestling fan, particularly WWE, just because that's what I've grown up with since I was a kid. Minus a couple of years, I didn't miss a single pay-per-view since '96. And gone through all the ups and downs with them, when it was cool to be a fan, when it's not cool to be a fan, like it is right now. But, you know, a lot of my dreams kind of go back to that. You know, a lot of if you really think about your dreams, your interest will normally be a part of it. So I was having a dream last night, as I have a couple of times here in the last few months, where I was a wrestler. And when I was younger, that was always kind of a pipe dream goal of mine, like a 5-year-old saying they want to be a cop or a firefighter or something like that. And but in my dreams, I am a wrestler. I usually participate in a match, and then I start to become lucid somewhere around there, and then my disabilities start to creep in. And my full disability, as you know if you've been watching the videos, is I'm triplegic. I can't walk. I can move my legs. I'm not paralyzed, but I can't walk on them. I can shuffle just to get from one seat to another to transfer. My left arm is completely contracted up like a chicken wing. I can't extend it, can't use it. I can hold on to stuff. I got grip in my hand, but that's about the extent of it. And I've got about 50% use in my right arm. So in my dream, I never get that bad off. But in the dream last night, we had been fired. There was a layoff. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know that's happened a lot here recently. So I'm sure that's why it got in my dream. That was one of the last videos I watched on YouTube last night before going to bed, was who was released recently. And so it turns out that me, Becky Lynch, if you know who that wrestler is. A friend of mine, Chris. We were all kind of travel mates together, and we decided we were going to go to this other company to see about getting work. And we get there, it's kind of like a gymnasium. It's just a very low indie setup. And whenever we get through it all, they start saying, well, what do you want to do? How do you see your angle going? How's your character going to go? And I started immediately thinking about my disabilities. I'm like, I don't think I could wrestle. I don't think I can do a drop kick anymore. I don't think I can get off the mat if I take a bump and fall down. And so then I started talking about, well, I'll just be, I'm thinking more of myself as like a manager or a valet. I guess valet is a bad word. They usually use that word for females, but someone who goes along with another wrestler and interferes with the matches. And somehow I wasn't happy with that, or they weren't happy with it, and I left. And from this point, I start having walking problems. In my dream, I'm looking for a cane or my chair or something. I actually remember that I should be in a wheelchair, and I'm fully aware that I'm dreaming at this point, so I start to fight that idea. And I got away from the situation, and it was kind of like it wasn't a family reunion, because it's going to get really horrible with what I'm going to say here in a minute. But it was a reunion. It was a bunch of people from my prior life, friends I've had since middle school and high school, and extended friends of family and stuff like that. We're all together in this dream, and it's going to be weird, but it was kind of like in a mall food court. And as I'm talking one person to another, actually having conversations with a couple individuals, I get down to in my dream. Of course, now I'm lucid. I know I can affect it. My dream starts to go sexual. That's why it's not a family reunion, despite the fact that I'm from the South. But when I get into these lucid dreams, I'm able to control those things. And for whatever reason or another, I don't think until last night, I don't think I ever had a dream where I got to the point of actually having sex, of actually having penetration. Much more to the point of actually feeling it in the dream. In lucid dreams, feelings and your senses start to react because your brain thinks it's real. And I've had makeout sessions and other things, but somehow it always woke up or something before the action really started. But it didn't last night. I was able to control it with the idea that I would have to lay down on the bed, and I would not be the one doing any of the work. So, in my real life, I am single, and I more than likely will be that way for the rest of my life. I haven't dated in about 4 years. I said this in a previous video about relationships as to reason why. At that time, that I didn't really push it because I thought I had way too much baggage to put on someone. Now my baggage is tenfold what it was at that time. I kind of been still in the same area. So my dreams, whenever I can control them, of course, I'm still human. There's things I want, and the want to be touched and the want to be held and things of those nature. And that's what a lot of them turn out to be, is they turn out to be like cuddle sessions. But for those wanting to learn how to lucid dream, there's some YouTube music you can listen to. They're called binaurals, and it's a two-tone thing that tends to trigger certain brain patterns. You can get them that are 3 or 4 hours long. You can get them that are 10 hours long. But throughout your sleep, you get anywhere between 5 to 8 dreams a night. Whether or not you remember them or not, again, is up to whether or not your mind realizes you're dreaming. If it doesn't, then it's just kind of background static. So there's no reason to remember it. The reason why you remember flashes of dreams is because for that instance you were on some conscious or unconscious level aware that this was a dream. Something about it was off, something, whatever. And so your mind took a note of it in kind of a reality check. It's the right word, but wrong usage for it. It's like surveying the land and doing a threat assessment. That's what I was looking for. You know something's off, kind of that hair in the back of your neck. When you know something's wrong, you walk into a room, the energy is wrong, you know something's up. That type of situation, you tend to remember situations like that because your mind doesn't know what to make of it immediately. It does a threat assessment, and then you learn from that threat assessment. So my belief is that that's what your brain does whenever you have dreams that you can remember. And the more dreams you can remember, the higher probability you're going to be able to lucid dream. Now, if you get into a dream and you kind of start becoming conscious of it, if you can react in any way to just yourself, not the scenery. Don't try and be Inception and start changing the world. Just focus on yourself in the beginning. And one of the things you can do is poke your hand. And of course, my hands are not really useful to do this, but I'll use one finger. So pretend my hand's right here. If you poke your hand in your dream, you should be able to poke through it. If you look for a clock, they're going to be spinning backwards, not necessarily spinning, but they're going to, like the second hand, be going backwards. And you most likely will not dream with a digital clock unless, this is weird, unless you're under the age of 30, because you've grown up primarily with digital clocks. But I assume most of the people, not all, most of the people here with MS that are watching this video are probably over the age of 30. The nightmare trigger, though, is looking in the mirror. Don't do that. Because your mind is creating this scene, a lot of times the mirror represents your worst fears. So when you look into the mirror, you will see your demons or the horrors that you tried to get away from. Another way to test if you're dreaming or not is just look at your fingers. Sometimes there's a sixth finger, or sometimes they're webbed together. And you'll notice that gravity or the laws of physics don't necessarily work the way you would think they would. Try jumping. Just do a hop. And if you notice that you kind of float back down versus going straight up, straight back down in the same speed, chances are you're dreaming. Now, I talk about pushing your finger through your hand for one simple reason. Because of the movie Inception, I guess technically you could get to a point where you always think you're dreaming and you're always testing it. And if you don't test it, you might do something that's permanent, like jump out a window. When I was younger and had these lucid dreams, I always had this reoccurring dream. This is how I kind of honed my skill, I guess. I had this reoccurring dream that originally was a nightmare, and then I mastered it, where I'd be on my bicycle. I was probably about 10, 12 years old, and I'd be pedaling as fast as I can going down this hill in the neighborhood, except the hill was much more dramatic, kind of like a San Francisco hill. And when I got to the bottom, there was this ramp, and the idea was I was going to ramp, jump, catch some air, and land as it was coming back up the other side. Well, I would go down with such speed and hit that ramp that when I jumped and caught air, beyond that hill there was the Grand Canyon. I mean, literally it was the Grand Canyon. And I would begin to free fall. I'd have that sensation of falling, which typically wakes you up, and I would snap out of it. But that became such a reoccurring dream. As time went on, and I started to recognize the setup for this dream, because the setup was always identical. As far as who I was playing with, what I was about to do, the conversation I was having that I was going to go do this jump. And when I got to realizing that I was there, I was usually on my bike already pedaling downhill when I would realize I was dreaming. And then I would just pedal and jump off. And sometimes I could fly. Other times I would take the free fall and I would land in water, several hundred feet below. I would get that full rush sensation like a roller coaster. But even to this day, I will have that dream. Sometimes the dream gets screwed up because as I'm pedaling a bicycle, I become aware that I can't ride a bicycle anymore, and that tends to kind of throw the dream off. So reality will, as much as it screws up your day-to-day life, it may even screw up your nightlife. But other dreams, I used to have recurring dreams. I remember one with my grandmother. It was at my house I lived at in Corpus Christi, and I don't know what it was, but my grandmother, my mom's mom, she wore what we always refer to as muumuus. I don't know if they're called that now or not, but it's just a big flowy nightgown. And something about it just reminded me, I don't know, of like a wizard or a witch, and I was probably like 6 or 7 when these dreams were happening. But I would walk out of my bedroom to go get something to drink, and here comes Grandma in the muumuu, mouth open, fangs bared, claws coming out of her hands, both of them up in this claw position, and she was floating with like her toes dragging on the ground. Actually, I don't even think I could see her feet because of the gown. But I loved Grandma. Grandma wasn't mean. Her dog was a bitch. And that dog ended up being part of my dream also, where not in that recurring dream, but I lived in Houston for a while, and I remember having this recurring dream that the closet underneath our stairs, I would open it and I would see Sasha, which was this little white poodle something, I don't know, just big fluffy thing. And I would somehow get locked in there with no light on, but I could see her perfectly in perfect black. I could see this white dog, and I just remember being so fearful of her, and she would start barking and scaring the hell out of me. And then I don't know what it was about dogs, but then I had this other dream, and my friend Mark, who had this German Shepherd, I can't remember his name now, but we used to roughhouse with it, and somehow this turned into a recurring dream where I would be picking on the dog. I don't know, if like yelling at it, throwing rocks at it, and then suddenly the dog would change and kind of become anthropomorphic and start chasing me. And I would make it to this fence. There was a fence in the neighborhood that had a couple of boards missing. We can kind of get through. It's like a shortcut. And I would make it to this fence and get to the other side, trip, fall. The dog would come barreling through the fence, breaking pieces of it as it came through, get on top of me and hold me down above my shoulders and start berating me. Like, why do you do this? Don't you understand? I don't like it. Type stuff. But it was a dog talking to me, yelling at me. I mean, there's so many other reoccurring dream things I used to have. One of the things I used to do for nightmares is, if I was in a nightmare, I still do this. If I get into a nightmare, I realize it's a nightmare and I need to get out of it, I cross my eyes really, really hard and I lift them up as high as I can. And if you do this with me right now, you'll realize you start to get a pain right in the center of your forehead, and that pain would wake me up. So it's still a useful trick, even at the age of 41. But you know what? I'm interested in what you are interested in, or I want to be. Leave me some comments. Tell me about your dreams. I want to know if you're capable of lucid dreaming. There is, if you go on Amazon, that's where I found it. Amazon has a bunch of vitamin supplements that are meant for lucid dreaming. There is another YouTube channel, I believe, called Lucid Dreaming, that teaches you different tricks and things. So don't base this on me. If you're curious about it, please go and do your actual homework and check out these other videos. If I think about it, I'll try and put it in the comments myself or in the description. But the vitamins work. I no longer use them. I think I still have some left over. But it's a particular formula of vitamins that you take at 2 different times, like one whenever you go to bed, and then one when you, or then like 4 hours later you need to wake up. And it's like setting an alarm. Take the next set, and then your lucid dream should kind of start happening in your second sleep session. So a lot of us with MS, we get up anyway. It didn't really make it a hard thing for me to have to do that, but it gives you the option of taking it as like a morning and a dinner vitamin, and then your lucid dreaming should start to be able to happen in your first sleep session. I know one thing that helps me lucid dream is keeping something reality based on the TV. So I go to bed watching the news, not in the beginning of the night. I always go to bed watching Rick and Morty or Family Guy or some sort of South Park, some sort of random cartoon, something I've seen 1,000 times, so that I'm not completely interested in having to watch it. But when I get up, if I've been asleep for more than 4 hours, I know my lucid dreaming typically happens in the second session of my sleep. So then I will turn on the news and or biography or something that I personally connect with and I know. And just having that on in the background at a decent volume, not turned up, but just having that in the background with voices and people and stories and all that stuff, especially like current events and stuff, those things will start to bleed into your dream. And then when you realize it, because you're familiar with it, then you can easily start to pick up and realize you're dreaming, and then start training yourself on how to have fun with it. So that's really all I have today. My dog is sitting here bothering me, jumping up on me. No. I'll put a picture right here of my dog so you can see what my dog looks like. But yeah, please let me know what you guys dream about, and let me know if you're capable of lucid dreaming, what tricks you have, what reoccurring dreams you have. I'm really interested. And if you don't want to leave them in the comments because they're personal, this is my email. Go ahead and give me a shout out there. Of course, you can also find me at Thunderduck Uncanceled on Facebook. All right. Well, until I talk to you guys again, probably here in the next 2 or 3 days, you be safe and you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.